It's a classic puck review
with the Jet Beta and Robbie too.
It's a classic puck review.
We'll hop in ice and bully, show a game for you.
So tip up your sticks and lace up your skates. No matter the element, out of the place.
Classic puck review.
So many hot takes, no topics taboo.
Classic puck review.
From Gretzky to Orr, Robbie Hull to Lemieux.
Performing CPR. A Lehman Sports Podcast.
Gotta hydrate before a podcast. The recording button has been
Make sure your PP is lemonade, not apple juice.
What? Hello and welcome to episode 29. Is this now episode 10 of season 2, Beta?
Yes, it is.
Nice.
It
All right.
is indeed.
Classic Puck Review. I'm Robbie Cameron. With me are Derek Brissett and Michael Beta. In episode 28, we covered the 2004 World Cup semifinals between Canada and the Czech Republic. Derek, that was your childhood choice. Did it live up to the memory?
You know, the 2004 World Cup of Hockey is probably one of the most underrated international tournaments that's ever been played. And, you know, it's a fun game to kind of look back on. It's a fun little era of Canadian hockey as well, as is what we'll dive into here tonight as well.
That's a fantastic segue, good sir. Fantastic.
Oh, I try sometimes, man.
Well, this time around, we go back a little further to the 1994 Winter Olympics, to be more specific, as Canada takes on Sweden in the gold medal final. Gents, why don't you guys walk us through the lead up of this one?
Yeah, so 1994 Winter Olympics in Lillehammer, Norway. So this is the last Olympics before NHL players would go to the Olympics. It is in kind of a little bit of a transitional period for like the Olympics, the IOC, the IIHF, and just kind of like that amateurism ranks of what the Olympics were. You know, as we all know, like previously, it was only amateur athletes that could compete at the Olympics. And that has slowly been changing through the 80s following like the Miracle on Ice. So both teams in this game do have professional players on their teams. There is including like, you know, some guys like Sweden's got Mats Naslund, Thomas Jansson, Håkan Loob that have all like played in the NHL, won Stanley Cups. They're kind of at the tail end of their careers here at this point. Canada's got, you know, guys like Peter Nedved, who's already played like 4 seasons in the NHL, but he's in the middle of a contract dispute at the moment. So he ended up playing for this team at the Olympics. Handful of guys that have been playing pro like in Europe and stuff. So obviously NHL players aren't actually actively participating. So not really a proper full strength Team Canada. But they are also led by, you know, first overall pick and the reigning Hobey Baker Award winner, Paul Kariya, as well as Sweden has Peter Forsberg, who the year prior absolutely lit up the World Junior Championship, which is all and has like a boatload of records that still stand today. This is also like the first year, interestingly enough, of the Olympics that they offset the summer and the Winter Olympics. So the previous Olympics was actually in 1992. Then they did the Winter Olympics on the 2-year window, so in 1994. And then that's kind of started the ball rolling on us getting Olympics every 2 years with the summer and winter rotating. So you had to have a lot of stuff kind of going on behind the scenes right now between like the major governing bodies. And, you know, just kind of the hockey world too, a little bit, because hockey was like one of the driving forces behind like the Olympics, like getting rid of the amateurism title and starting to allow pros, because, you know, there was a lot of, you know, Canada was complaining about, you know, the rules of like not allowing NHL players. And then they modified it to like only guys that have played less than 10 games in the NHL are eligible. Meanwhile, like the Soviet Union's running over everybody still because they have like their pro players and like guys and like, you know, the other European teams like Slovakia is starting to do really well. The Czechs are doing well. And just to kind of, because they have guys that are playing in their own pro leagues, right? Sweden's doing well. Finland's doing well because those guys are playing. So Canada was kind of fought for that for a little bit. They actually like threatened to like pull out of like international hockey and stuff for a bit too. So a lot kind of going on there, but this is kind of the final tournament before the NHL and the IOC and the IIHF fully kind of jump on board. So you kind of have that little bit of mix of some guys that are, seasoned veteran pros, and then obviously guys like Paul Kariya and Peter Forsberg that are just at the, beginning of their careers, still haven't quite cracked, the pro ranks yet. So it does kind of make for a super sort of interesting dynamic throughout the tournament. Canada and Sweden were actually both part of Group B. They finished second and third in the group. And then obviously went on to the quarterfinals. Canada has defeated the Czech Republic and Finland on the way to the gold medal game, whereas Sweden defeated Germany and Russia on their path to the gold medal game. This also is the first Olympic tournament where Russia is actually competing as Russia, previously as the Soviet Union. Then in 1992, they won the gold medal as the unified team. So kind of technically a random Olympic hockey trivia question is that Russia has never actually won an Olympic gold medal because they've either been the Soviet Union, the unified team, or the Olympic athletes from Russia in the last Olympics too. So the actual country of Russia has never won a hockey gold medal at the Winter Olympics. So now Canada, Sweden, they meet in the gold medal game. Their one game in the group stage game, Canada did win 3-2. So that about kind of sets us up here. Unless Beta, if you have anything to add, man, feel free to jump in on this.
Yeah, there not too much more to add, but this is the 18th edition of ice hockey at the Olympics. So the Olympic Committee in 1914, their annual meeting, that was the first time they ever introduced the notion that ice hockey could be an Olympic game. And the first time it ever was held was 1920 games in Antwerp, Belgium. So there weren't even such things as the Winter Olympics yet. It was just, I wouldn't even call it summer, but just the Olympic Games from 1896 through 1924. So the 1920 games were held in April. So it was almost like a spring Olympics. That's where they first had ice hockey. Canada won handily. They won the first 4 ever gold medals in Olympic hockey. The second time they ever ran the tournament was the first official Winter Olympics in Chamonix, France. So 1920, 24, 28, and 1932, Canada just ran roughshod on the entire universe, and it wasn't even close. Some of the amateur teams that won the Allen Cup would compete on Team Canada's behalf, and it was quite silly. It was boys versus men. Great Britain inexplicably won a gold medal in 1936 in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, Germany. A couple Canadian-born players were on that team, so Canada always kind of protested that one, but shout out to Great Britain for that. And then, of course, World War II kind of postponed a couple games, but then when it returned in 1948, Canada won the next 2 in 48 and 52. And then by then, the Iron Bloc and Soviet system began to really take over. And States won a couple mixed in there in 1960 and 1980, of course, with the Miracle on Ice. But Canada has been goldless since 1952. Those games, I believe, took place in Oslo. So Norway as well. So now they're in Lillehammer. They're looking to avenge 42 years of no golds. But basically, they also didn't compete at all in the 70s. All the notion of protesting kind of communist countries allowing their best players to compete because they weren't considered professionals. They were military men, the Red Army and the whole Soviet team were the best that they could ever ask for. That's why they just dominated the entire international hockey world for a couple decades. So Canada kind of withdrew from Olympic competition for a couple editions, and then they did return in 1980, but still as amateurs. And yeah, the whole hodgepodge that you said, Derek, of players that have been drafted, have maybe played a couple games through a couple seasons, but are all quite young. A couple older guys mixed in there. But yeah, and you got like Korea, who's coming on the scene, Hobie Baker Award winner for the Maine Black Bears the year prior, 1993. Then Sweden, up-and-coming players like Peter Forsberg, who's already held in very, very high regard for Modo hockey. He plays for his father. And then guys like Thomas Janssen, who played with the Islanders in the 80s, has a lot of experience. And Mats Naslund, who played with the Habs in the 80s, Håkan Loob, who played with the Flames, 50 goal scorer, won a cup there in 89. So it's like Sweden's got some great old players that are setting the tone along with the young guys like Forsberg, whereas Canada have just the old gritty kind of, AHL young boys that are just trying to bring glory to the nation to prove that they still are the best. But Sweden has never won an Olympic gold in hockey. They've won 2 silvers, 4 bronze. Canada, on the other hand, the previous 6 dominant gold medals, but 3 silver and 2 bronze themselves. So they're trying to make it 7 golds tonight. First time since 1952. Or will Sweden get there first?
Canada, Sweden for the gold in Lillehammer, Norway. Here we go.
Tommy Salo loosening himself up around the Swedish goal. Salo.
Tommy Salo, man, everyone remembers him from his days with the Islanders and the Oilers in the late 90s, early 2000s. Respect to Tommy. And Corey Hirsch was the goaltender. We did the game CPR 18 when Lemieux lit him up for 5 goals when they beat the Rangers in 1993. So that was a year ago. That was his 4th career NHL game and his most recent NHL game to date, because this whole season he's been in the Canadian system. Yeah, Corey Hirsch, man. He's only like 21 in this game.
Were you saying that thing about Tommy Salo ironically or being unironic?
When I said we remember him for his days.
Everyone remembers him.
Well, do you not remember Tommy Salo?
I mean, I remember him, but maybe not as, you know.
I remember Belarus taking a clapper off his head from the.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah,
that's where it all went wrong for Tommy Salo.
That's my big Tommy Salo memory. I'm sorry, Tommy. I'm sure you probably played a good game at some point in your career, but that's the one that sticks out.
Dude, Jurgen Janssen is just a weird name to me, man. Like, respect to him. I'm sure it's very, very normal in Sweden, but Jurgen Janssen is the stereotypical Scandinavian name that we think of when we just want to make fun of Scandinavians.
Oh, Jurgen Janssen.
Jurgen Janssen. And he's in like the IIHF Hall of Fame too.
Yeah. Magnus Svensson is a very Swedish sounding name as well.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Side to Kontos. Kontos being shadowed by Svensson. Johansson bounces it off the boards, but Korea picks it up right out front. Johnson! Salo is there! Big save! Whoa, the Canadians were wide open.
Isn't it so funny how young Tom Rennie looks here?
Yeah. Well, he's 38. He looks older than 38, but he's only 38 there.
Those are powerful eyebrows.
Yeah. Caterpillars.
Powerful eyebrows.
I had to get used to the clock counting up. That was common up until the mid 2000s, really, the clock counting up just like it does in FIFA or any soccer game. But I don't know. What are you for or against clocks going up, or do you prefer them to count down?
I'm a clock down type of guy.
In hockey, I feel like I don't know. I feel like if it's a North American sport, clock goes down. If it's international, then clock can go up and it doesn't bother me. But
see, why do we call like they scored at 3:40 of the first period? Why can't we just say they scored at 16:20 left in the first period? Fucks me up.
That's the thing that I don't like about the way hockey does the clock, because they still do it even in like the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Is like in a rugby game, the clock counts up. But if you score in the 16th minute, like the scorecard of the game will say you scored in the 16th minute.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to count down, say he scored at 16.
Yeah.
Of the first period. If you're going to count up, then count up. But I just don't get why like it flip flops and stuff. But I guess that's the NHL, because they would score it like this in international though.
Forwards. Janssen. Forsberg. Janssen. Hacken-Lube. Lube tips it back. Janssen playing with Lube out there. Lube puts it over the red line. Loveson goes after Forsberg. Back to Lube. Gets it right out front. A one-timer comes score! Janssen had moved up from the blue line.
Thomas Janssen with an absolute bomb. Beats Corey Hirsch on the power play. Good pressure by the Canadian PK, but those pesky Swedes were able to work their magic. Walk us through this one, boys.
Thomas Janssen, man. Today, that article that you graciously published for me, the Easter epic, he was in that game. Played with the Islanders, defenseman, so he logged a lot of ice time in that game. I think he also had a cracked jaw at that point, so he was wearing some really dinkus visor mouth protector in that game. And that even makes me like, look at all the Swedish players have the Jofa buckets, they look like turtle shells. Like, I love how classic they are. I love how 80s they are, but the helmet's evolved enough now that it's funny that they still want to rock it. Like, that looks so amateur hour. Like, it just looks, I'm sure it works, but they just look like little turtle shells. They're so round, and it's just kind of funny.
Have the cage on the front, they look way better.
Yeah.
Without the cage, I think they look off.
But yeah, Thomas Janssen had 350 points almost in his almost 10-year career in the NHL. I think he played from 81 to 89, one season with the Oilers, the rest with the Islanders. So he did win the last 2 cups with the Islanders, 82, 83. So he's very successful. And he'd be in his early mid-30s at this point. So veteran presence on the team, probably one of the oldest players in the game, and stepping up and clutch on the power play. So I want to give a shout out to the 1992 Dream Team, USA basketball team, because they really influenced.
Sweet, another non-hockey topic. Let's go.
Yeah. So Gary Bettman was David Stern's kind of assistant, wasn't he, in the NBA? Like Gary Bettman has a basketball background before he became the commissioner in 93. So the 92 Dream Team really, really paved the way into allowing NHL players and the high-end pro players to compete in the Olympics, because Gary Bettman was quite inspired by the Dream Team's success and the way they were established and how they really had an international presence. It was 1986 meeting the International Olympic Committee that they decided, starting in Calgary Games 88, that they might have pro players, but it just never manifested until Nagano.
I mean, I think that's kind of what a big issue was for like the Pyeongchang Olympics, right? It was just the NHL kind of completely shuts down for it, but like the IOC doesn't really make it worth their while too much to actually have players in. I mean, hopefully that'll change and hopefully they can kind of figure it out, because I think in watching like this game and watching like the other Olympics that have happened since then, NHL players at the Olympics are like, I think are really important. We kind of talked about last episode how there's not a whole lot of best on best hockey tournaments anymore. So it'd be nice to see the Olympics kind of return to that level. But I think there's a part of me too that also wants, you know, I kind of understand if the NHL is not necessarily super excited to go, because it, you know, it's kind of hurts them a little bit on a business point, other than like the growing the game element, which is obviously, you know, always tough to actually concretely measure.
So every team in the tournament was guaranteed 7 games. You get your 5 round robins. And then if you went to the consolation side, because top 4 out of 6 made the quarters, the 5th and 6th from each of the respective divisions would face each other in a semifinal and final tournament to determine 9th through 12th. So you're guaranteed 7 games or 8, as is the case here for Canada and Sweden. This is their 8th game. Corey Hirsch has started all 8 games for Canada. Manny Legacy, shout out to Manny from the Red Wings that we did the game on 2006 against the Oilers. He's the backup for Team Canada. He's only 21 years old. Same as Hirsch, both young goalies. Team Canada's average age is like 23, 24, and Sweden's is 26 and a half. Get the old boys.
As I say, that's probably mostly like Mats Naslund and Thomas Janssen and Håkan Lube kind of.
How are you guys digging these jerseys? You like the Reebok logo on the shoulders?
I don't know. I was going to I made a comment that I dislike these jerseys, and both teams' number fonts are the same, and it's literally what you'd see in your elementary school pennies in gym class. This kind of jersey font with the little offset fade 3D. Let's see, and they zoom in on some player's back. You'll see what I mean. It's like you get your sweaty grade 5 gym pennies. Look at that shit. You know what I'm saying?
It's got like the fake drop shadow on it.
Yeah.
It looks like shit. It's terrible.
Yeah. No,
and like the piping at the bottom of the jersey just doesn't fit. Like, it's just a bad jersey.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. And yeah, like how many stripes are on the bottom of the jersey there too?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's, yeah, I don't know. It's probably one of my least favorite Canada hockey jerseys.
What's your absolute least favorite?
My absolute least favorite?
See, I think like if I'm thinking about it, I think it's probably these ones right here.
Yeah. The Sochi Olympic jerseys were pretty bad.
I'll tell you, my least favorite Canada jersey ever is the Lake Placid 1981. But it looks bad.
I was going to say, I just pulled it up. Yeah. Oh my God, that sucks.
The coloring is silly. It was a really unsuccessful tournament for them, and their jerseys are horrible and should be forgotten.
Bounces along the board. Stillman ties up Kontos rather, and that goes all the way down the ice. There goes the buzzer.
After one, Sweden finds themselves up by 1. Pretty even. Sweden probably had the better chances, What did you guys think of that first period?
You couldn't have said it any better, good sir, than what you just said. Like, they had the better chances. They are winning. Canada a little bit lacking in aggression on the forecheck. Tommy Salo's made a couple good saves, couple penalties here and there. Not really anything too exciting. It's as if, everyone knows there's 2 long periods to go.
The interesting kind of matchup is like they're both playing like the big lines against each other. So you get a lot of like Korea versus Forsberg and like Nedved versus Naslund and stuff like that going on right now. So it's like both teams are kind of just playing like the big guns head to head against each other. So we'll see how that and they're playing well too. So it makes for a pretty interesting game.
Waugh trying to break up on the left side, but he couldn't get to that. Waugh gets back, moves right in front of his own net. Naslund is there. Naslund has Yulin in front to shot. Hirsch makes a save, and Hirsch is smothered on the play.
Big save from Hirsch there on Yulin. Yulin gets bumped in front, standing on the doorstep, and he goes down like Neymar here. I don't know if they'll show the whole thing on the replay, but it's funny. Like, he literally rolls around on the ground twice when he gets manhandled in front here. Oh, that's a good hit. You see that hit? Damn, that was nice. So I've seen, did Hirsch get a piece of that? So a buddy of mine,
I think that went like just completely high and wide.
This second period has some back and forth action. It most definitely. Here comes Korea now. You can tell it's him because he's 5'2", and basically gets hit hard almost every time he has the puck.
Faster than everybody else on the ice too.
That's right, man. Mighty Duck legend.
The Canadians looking a lot better. Coming in is Janssen. Janssen a shot. Hirsch, great save. Janssen had just come out of the penalty box.
So you were saying we should talk about Peter Forsberg some point throughout this game.
Yeah,
it's his game if it's anyone's game. So what is he here? Like 20 years old only?
Yeah, 20 years old, kind of coming off that insane World Juniors performance the year prior.
So he's been around the Moto system, like obviously the youth system and kind of the way it works in Europe, skewed up the ladder, up the ranks, where his father is the coach. So I think this is his 3rd or 4th season involved in the first team, because he was like 16, 17 when he finally made his debut, as they tend to do very young over there if they're a prodigy. And this season in particular, in 39 games, he had 18 goals and 26 assists. So he was over a point per game player at 20 in the Swedish league, which some could argue the Swedish league was more superior to the Russian or Soviet leagues of the time. So this could be the next best league other than the NHL. There's a high percentage of Swedes in the league in the 80s and 90s in the NHL, more so than any other nation, except maybe the States, but obviously North American system all blends together. So yeah, reputable league at the time and very reputable player. And yes, his World Juniors the couple of years prior, or the year before, sensational, where he had his 11 points in 92. And then he was a part of the 1992 Swedish World Championship team that won. Had 6 points in 8 games there, and then 31 points in 7 games in the 93 World Juniors. Very promising career.
I mean, his World Junior tournament's kind of legendary, just how much he dominated that. But he was also like, he destroyed like the Swedish Junior League too. So in 1991, he scored 102 points in 35 games with like Moto's U20 team. So like just he like annihilated this like the Swedish like junior system, building up into that. And then he kind of ended up with that weird little saga too, because he ended up being part of like the whole Lindros not wanting to play for Quebec thing, and then he kind of ended up being involved in that trade to send him, and then that probably benefited the Nordique/Avalanche organization more than just keeping Lindros would have.
Yeah, he was selected 6th overall in 1991 draft by the Flyers, and he would eventually go on to actually play for the Flyers right after the lockout, 05-06, and then half of the 06-07 season when the Flyers were last place. Still put up like a point per game there, pretty much though on the declining twilight years of his career when he was always battling injuries. and then he got traded halfway through the 06-07 season to Nashville. But he did fulfill his drafting obligations by playing for the Flyers in actuality. But yeah, his rookie year in the NHL was the 94-95 lockout shortened season. The last season Quebec even was a team. And he had 50 points in 47 games there on his way to a sophomore season cup in Colorado.
He's the only Hall of Fame inductee to never exceed more than 30 goals and average more than a point a game throughout his career.
Philadelphia Flyers are pleased to select from Modo, Sweden, Peter Forsberg.
Did you expect to go in the first round?
No.
You seem very surprised.
Yeah, I am at that too.
Selected by Philadelphia with the 6th pick in the 1991 draft, Forsberg was dealt to Quebec in the blockbuster Eric Lindros trade before ever playing a game with the Flyers.
Forsberg scores!
I think I had 4 points in the first 3 games. And working out perfect, and then I did not have 1 point in 8 games, I think. And I got called into Crawford, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, start playing, start thinking. Well, I'm not going to send you down or anything.
The message was received. Forsberg finished his rookie year with 50 points in 47 games, earning the Calder Trophy as the NHL's top rookie. The Nordiques moved to Denver the following year coincided with the beginning of Forsberg's emergence as one of the NHL's best.
Peter always believed that you could beat guys one-on-one, but I mean, that's how special he was.
2 things I couldn't do. I couldn't shoot and I couldn't fight. Other than that, I think I solved the game pretty well.
885 points in 708 career games. Forsberg finished his career a plus 210. His physical style at both ends of the ice redefined our image of a Swedish hockey player.
Sometimes I walk in the game, I was like, I'm not going to do anything today. And then 5 minutes of the game, I would start yelling at people and trying. It's just how I was.
I don't think anybody realizes how strong of a player he was going to be, how tough he was, how physical he was going to be. If anybody you gave him a shot, or anybody went after him, I mean, he was right back in there, and he didn't let the guy off the hook.
Nowhere was his talent and physical ability more apparent than within the Red Wings-Avalanche rivalry of the mid and late 90s.
Here's Forsberg. He scores!
We had so many games, so many tough games, and even regular season games against him back in the 90s. Felt like it was a playoff game.
A Hart Trophy winner, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, his confidence only left him once his body began to fail him.
It was a struggle. I would say if I look at my career, before I was 30 it was good, and after that I was just trying to hold on, and nothing really good happened after that. It was hard to give up. I wanted to try everything possible to make it work.
At his peak, Forsberg was a dominant player, a fearsome competitor, a champion. There was no higher honor than hockey's Hall of Fame.
Thinking back in all the games and all I did in playing hockey, I really enjoyed it. And I got to win 2 cups and 2 Olympics and 2 World Championships, so I'm really happy, and a fantastic journey.
12 seconds. Lushko goes in. Stillman takes him heavily into the boards. Ornskog is out there muscling now. Back to the blue. Lovson can't keep it in, and Harlock gets back. There goes the buzzer.
2 periods in the books. The Swedes are still up by 1, but both teams have been pretty good at keeping chances at a minimum. Boys, if you had to pick one word to describe this game thus far, what would it be?
Does it feel long? Does it feel long to everybody else? I mean, maybe it's just the video that we're watching that has this like over 3-hour runtime, but it feels long. It feels long. We're slogging away. We're getting distracted by things like soccer jerseys and stuff, but it's all good. So I know.
What's the word? Long?
Long, yeah.
That couple right there says it all. Like the guy's asleep.
That's what I wanted to do.
Guys, like, this game's boring as balls. Like, there's 9,300 people in here. And we want to see some more goals. We don't want to see the Janssens take over here. We want Canada to start waking up. Corey Hirsch has been the busier of the two goalies. The one word I would say is drawl.
Just woke him up to get back to his seat too. God.
There, you're not supposed to be sitting here.
Oh man.
Oh my God.
There we go. Did anything? What else?
Why are we watching this? Get to the game.
I don't know.
So in this Olympics, Canada won 3 gold medals, 6 silvers, and 4 bronze. So they won 13 medals, whereas Sweden only won 2 gold. Wonder which 2 those were, and a silver. So Canada had a fairly fruitful 1994 Winter Olympic Games. So if Naslund, Lube, and Janssen win today, they are the first to ever join the Triple Gold Club. The elusive Triple Gold Club. They've all won Stanley Cups. They've all won a world championship. Now they need an Olympic gold medal. No one's ever done it yet. Naslund returns to the NHL next season too. In the lockout shortened season, he plays for Boston. So he was played in Sweden growing up, went to the NHL, had some success, went back at age 30, and then decided, oh, let's go back to the NHL one more time in my mid-30s. And he had an okay campaign for the Bruins. Funny, he played for the Bruins. Like, that's probably, if I were to ever see a Mats Naslund Bruins jersey, that would be the most rare uniform I'd ever see.
See, like, I'm wondering though, before this game with Naslund, Lube, and Janssen here, like, has anyone ever actually had a chance to get to the Triple Gold Club and lost? It's like, or are these like the first 3 guys that have even had a crack at it? Because for the longest time, like like European players, especially the Russian guys that were dominating the world championships, weren't allowed to play in the NHL, right? So like, how many, like, is this even the first time that someone's even had a shot at joining the Triple Gold Club?
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah. It is very hard to do. Like,
it's
the probability of winning the Stanley Cup, and then you got to be good enough to play for your national team in a world championship and make an Olympic team every 4 years.
Well, I think the hardest part is you have to play on an NHL team that's good enough to win the Stanley Cup, and also play on an NHL team that's bad enough to miss the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Kontos is there. Naslund breaks. Gives it to Lube. Shot comes in. Hirsch is there. Rebound as it's kicked over to the near side. The Canadians now pick it up and move forward. Johnson. Kontos. Right in there. Salo says, I didn't see it. It's all tied up.
End-to-end action. Hirsch makes a big stop on one end, but Paul Kariya tips one home on the other end to tie this game up. Pretty entertaining sequence there, chaps. Take us through it. Salo saw none of this puck.
Yeah, and his job is to see the puck, so I don't know why he complains. I don't know why anytime a goaltender complains, like, oh, I got screened. Well, it's a crying shame. Do better next time. I have no sympathy for that. I couldn't see defense. I hated that. Every goalie growing up, complaining that they couldn't see the shot. It's like, hey, you have one job to do. I'm just kidding. It's hard to do. I sympathize with Salo. But great shot. Canada's on the board. It went through a flurry of bodies. Kariya gets credited. Chris Kontos gets an apple, and I think even Greg Johnson, rest in peace, gets the other one. Look at that, 19-year-old beauty, his third of the tournament. And the Ducks can't wait to have him. But Tommy Salo, nothing he could do. Paul Kariya, there's a couple times he has the puck, and he makes the same movements that led to the Stevens hit, where he's, left-handed shooter. He brings the puck in towards the blue line and backhands and kind of follows the pass, and the kind of is turning into the weak side. It almost gave me the heebie-jeebies, because it's like, damn, you're less than 10 years away from that muscle memory movement really affecting the rest of your career. It's sad to see.
I haven't even noticed that. He's been doing that the whole game?
Well, a couple times for sure. Like, it's very similar place on the ice, and of course no one's going to hit him the way Stevens hit him, and no one would ever even have the balls to do that. But yeah, he kind of admires his pass, little flicks from the backhand, and then kind of glides through to maybe get a backdoor pass and crash the net. And it's just like, he probably did that thousands of times in his career.
Is Paul Kariya the greatest Hobey Baker Award winner?
Yeah, I think if you kind of look back at like the history of NCAA hockey, I feel like Paul Kariya is probably the best collegiate hockey player of all time. So I would definitely add him on to the best player to ever win the Hobey Baker Award.
Only freshman to ever do it too, win the Hobey Baker.
Yeah.
Back, and Mayer comes forward. Mayer, the pass right through, goes back behind the red line. The Canadians set it up from behind the goal, right in front, the one-timer. Salo makes a save, and there's a score! 2-1! Salo again says, I didn't see it!
A howitzer from Derek Mayer. Salo again having to deal with limited sight lines. I know that's going to irk you, Beta. Big shot, big goal. Canada up 1. Feel free to lay into old Tommy boy here, Beta.
No, man, I feel for him, man. It's tough. Like you're up 1-0. He's hasn't faced as many shots as Hirsch, but he's answered the call. He's got a beautiful mask as well. And you know, you're one country over. Like, I feel like there's a fair amount of Swedish fans here, and a lot of neutral fans are probably pulling for them in Norway. Maybe like Norway and Sweden have a pretty good reputation amongst themselves. A lot of European countries' neighbors are on better terms than rivals, kind of like we love to chirp the States, but Norway and Sweden get along. So the fact that this game's taking place in Norway, I feel like the Swedes feel a little bit of home ice advantage in a way. And to go down a goal now in a span of a couple minutes after leading the entire game, you know, Jansson's goal came early in the first period, and neither goal he really saw. It's tough, and you can't really blame anyone for that. It just happens. But what a nice shot there. And yeah, Derek Mayer.
I'm kind of looking at the Hobey Baker Award winners now that Robbie has mentioned this. So I guess the first one, at least according to Wikipedia here, the first one was in 1981. That was won by Neil Broughton.
Oh.
There's literally only one like Hall of Fame player that has won the Hobey Baker Award.
Paul Kariya.
Paul Kariya, I think, is the lone Hall of Fame player, unless I'm missing somebody.
I know he didn't win the Hobey Baker Award, but Hobey Baker is also in the Hall of Fame.
Hobey Baker is in the Hall of Fame, yeah.
It's too bad he couldn't
Baker
fly
and Paul
planes
Kariya.
well.
Hmm?
He was killed in a plane crash in the war.
Oh, no, that's sad.
I love this hit, man. Like,
You know where
Lushko
this
just folds.
You should have timestamped it, Beta, so that way you would have known when it's coming.
Here. Oh, man, that's a huge hit. He like absorbs it, just crumples.
I feel like I was expecting a bigger hit than that.
Dude, it was a big hit. Rewind that, man. Like
they bumped into each other.
Dude, he gets a huge shiner on his eye like instantly, man. Like he needs to get.
Because that was really poor form, and he probably hit him with his helmet.
The announcer says, "I hope he's not a vegetarian because he's going to need a steak on that one."
Is that what the announcer said?
Yeah, dude, he just eats it fully. Like it's a huge hit.
That's not even a hit. He's trying to stop.
Dude, that's a big hit, man. Don't care what you say. The biggest hit is yet to come.
I'm with
the biggest
Robbie
hit
on
is
this
yet
one,
to come.
dude. He ran into him.
They smoked each other unintentionally. Yeah.
The Swedish guy's feet are literally off the ground, trying to stop to avoid.
Look at his
him.
eye, bro. Do you see his eye?
No, I don't. His eye looks fine.
His right eye. It's swollen.
Yeah, it looks all right.
Naslin is there. Warenka ties him up. Naslin comes free, works his way out front, and he's dragged down. The Canadians come forward. The whistle blows. Oh, that's a big, gutsy call by Hearn.
It had to be made, though. Naslin had come right to the front of the goal. He was in a scoring situation.
Yeah, Naslin was hooked by all-star Brad Rowenka. And the announcers here say it was very necessary because Naslin was going to drive to the net. It was kind of the only thing Rowenka could do without giving up a point-blank shot, which Hirsch has made over 30 saves already.
Hirsch is playing very well in this game.
Yeah.
Both defensemen have great shots from back at the blue, Janssen and Svensson. Forsberg, a lot of pressure on this youngster. That comes back to Janssen. Janssen has got Svensson. The two overlap. Forsberg moves in, drops it back. Shot goes in. They score! Power play goal. The Swedes have leveled it.
Sweden ties this game up on the power play. Magnus Svensson is the man who drives it home. rocking the awesome Jofa bucket, which Beta hates. And with little less than 2 minutes to play, the Swedes stay alive. Crowd goes crazy. Svensson on his knees. The Swedes loving it.
I was going to say, Svensson knows how to celebrate a game-tying goal. That's for sure. He's got some great style, though. Like you said, the Jofa bucket. He's got the tongues on the skates out, jersey tucked in. It's a good looking style on him there. So
he makes the Jofa bucket look pretty cool. Yeah, and the exuberance of having tied the game in front of almost 10,000 people and possibly send it to overtime.
Yeah.
In charge of taking this face off, and that goes back, and that'll be the game. Loveson touches it.
Yeah. So we are going to overtime in the gold medal game. That is titillating.
I wonder if that guy is awake.
I hope so. That was a much better period.
I know. That was fun. Hopefully the cheering crowd woke him up a little bit.
Beta, you mentioned it. End of regulation. We're still squared at 2 apiece. That means we'll see some extra hockey. Before we get into overtime, why don't you guys break down the format for us?
Certainly, yes. So the format for this gold medal game, we got 10 minutes of overtime, sudden death. Not like soccer with extra time where they play it through the 30 minutes to 2:15s. It is sudden death hockey, much like it is in regular overtimes. 10 minutes though, no one scores after 10 minutes. We go to a 5-round shootout. 5 rounds, not the 3 that the NHL adopted in 2005, but 5 rounds here. The shootout was in fact used, I think, in the consolation side. France beat Austria, so that's happened. Love it or hate it. I personally hate it. I hate how that all comes down to a one-on-one battle rather than the team mentality and setting up great goals. But they don't want this game to go on forever, even though it seems like it has gone on forever. But they go 5 rounds shootout. If it's still tied after that, it is 1-for-1 sudden death. So that is the format here to claim gold. So I feel like the mentality is let's end this before that happens, because no one really wants to win that way. No one wants to lose that way, more so. Let's end it in OT.
You know what, though? I think if there's any game that is like an argument for why shootouts are great, it's this game.
Right to left, and no one will want to make a mistake out there. That's for sure. Mayer, Bergfest, Janssen, who scored the first goal of the game, just flips it high in a Canadian territory.
But yeah, both teams poised to have a breakout that could end the game. Here comes Svensson going into the boards hard. See, we love him. We love him for that equalizing goal, but he almost just died. And the action's picking up. Here comes Rowenka now. The big hit on Janssen's coming up. And if you thought the hit on Halushko was nothing, okay, this is the biggest hit in the game is ensuing.
This better be good.
Here it is. Here it is.
Oh, yeah, it's a good hit.
Yeah. And he's unconscious. Can you believe that? Like, he's out.
I believe that.
19 years old. He's dead.
Yeah, that hurt.
And the coach eventually has to go out and tend to him. And the crowd is trying to call for a penalty. There's a fair amount of the Swedish supporters and neutral supporters. But if you look at it, Loveson, it could be, is it charging? Is it boarding? But no, Janssen turns into him, and Loveson wasn't really making a beeline for him. He was making a play on the puck, but he absorbed the hit because Janssen just turns into him. You'll see in the replay, it's not like Loveson was trying to be malicious in any way, even though it could be deemed charging or boarding. I'm kind of glad that there is no call on it, though. It teaches the 19-year-old to learn, to not turn in the puck in overtime into an oncoming forecheck. But he's out cold here.
All but one Canadian player appears to be really excited about that hit too. One guy's like, eh. Everybody else on their feet over the boards. There's just the one player that's just didn't even.
I've seen it before.
Yeah, he goes to the dressing room in a couple minutes. He's out. Like, he is done.
Well, I mean, if anything, like, he should be, like, with what we know about like concussions and stuff, he shouldn't even be trying to play after that.
Wonder if he was ever hit that hard again.
Well, he had a lot of concussions, didn't he?
He did have a lot of concussions. Yeah, he had some concussion like just issues throughout his entire career and stuff, which maybe started here. So, I don't know. Like if this is the first big one, right? Like what we know now, that could set off a bit of a chain reaction sometimes, right?
Yeah, the force of the whiplash of going into the boards like that, or just absorbing the hit along the boards, gushes your brain. It's shaking inside your skull. And if you have one concussion, the floodgates open, right? It's like false teeth. Lose your tooth, they're always going to be loose.
Is that so?
That is so. Straight out of the Brent Burns 101 manual.
It's what they tell all the kids in Timmins to get them to brush their teeth too.
Kids in Timmins are lucky if they have more teeth than fingers.
Yeah, you guys drink hand sanitizer up there.
No, we don't drink hand sanitizer. We tried it once. Here comes Korea. See, that's the play.
Yeah, he kind of
admires his pass, backhands it, and kind of just schluffs into the center ice.
Should be retribution for Janssen.
Comes up to Forsberg. Good move by Forsberg, but he can't get the shot away. A loose puck is right in front. Wawrinka eventually clears it up. Canada come back. Korea, wide shot, and that bubbles all the way down the ice, and this is end-to-end action. What a finish. Got a piece of it. Forsberg couldn't get it out. Mayer tries to muscle his way through. 5 seconds. That comes back. A long clearance up. That's given away. 2 seconds. Svensson takes the shot. Whoa, we're into shootout.
10 minutes of overtime solves nothing, so now we head to the shootout. Scale of 1 to 10, boys. How do you guys fare mano a mano with the netminders yourselves? You guys good shootouts, or you got a bag of tricks you go to, or what?
I do not have I was a very defensive defenseman, so I don't really have a huge bag of tricks as far as the handles in the shootout. My go-to shootout move was always just to shoot. Would never really try like any fancy deeks or anything, because those never seemed to work. But for some reason, maybe it's just because I didn't play a very high level of hockey and everybody wanted to deke, was that goalies always seemed thrown off when you just get to the hash marks and shoot. So that's kind of what I always went with. It worked.
Were you a slap shot guy? Would you get like 5 feet away from them and just put an absolute bomb on top of them, or what?
No, I was more like the snapshot or wrist shot from the hash marks kind of guy, depending on what like the goalie kind of gave up. You can just kind of like cruise in, and then basically the shootout game at the Hall of Fame, just kind of cruise in and then see what the goalie gives you, and then it's target practice at that point.
What say you, Beta? You got those Patty Kane hands, or what?
No, I didn't have the Patty Kane hands, but I do recall when I was young, like especially like 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, if I ever did take a penalty shot, my kind of go-to move really was kind of slow down in tight, come in with a bit of speed, slow down in tight. And just because no one had really hit their full growth spurt yet, a lot of goalies were still small. And I was a right-handed shooter, so I'd come in and basically kind of give him an eye fake, like I might have gone backhand, but when I was within like 12 feet, just try to put it high over their glove. So pretty much just parallel, just kind of make them think I maybe put a little stick handle in there, but just shoot it high. And it was somewhat successful. I was never robbed, but sometimes I'd either just miss or not shoot high enough because goalies were smaller. So not a lot of the times they were able to get that glove high up.
All right, so we got Tommy Salo going up against the boy wonder, Peter Nedved here. Look how short those pads are.
This early 90s pads.
Jeez.
Peter Nedved, kind of interesting story too, just because he's on he defected from the Czech Republic to play in North America, played for Seattle in the WHL, and then got drafted by Vancouver. And like I said, he was like the contract dispute this season. So as he's holding out for a contract from Vancouver, he decided to get a Canadian citizenship and come and represent Canada at this tournament. And let's see what he does in the shootout. And just see my move, just skate fast and shoot. It works. It's effective.
I feel like Salo really helps him here by literally giving him the whole top half of the net.
The whole top. Yeah, exactly. It's like you just wait for the goalie to do something. Like see which skate to the hash mark, see what the goalie gives you, and then shoot. It's a good shot too, though.
Hakan Lube. He had a 50-goal season in 87-88 for the Flames. Only played 6 years and then promptly left the NHL right after collecting that 89 cup.
It's a good thing
he was stymied there by Corey Hirsch.
It's a good thing his last name wasn't Luke instead of Lube.
Hakan Lube, though, is one of the all-time great hockey names.
It really is. Hakan Lube.
Double IHF Hall of Famer.
There's zero chance no one's not made fun of him for his name.
Oh, he almost slipped that one by Hirsch.
We'll go Paul Correa. The actual Mighty Duck, so you would assume that he's decent at shootouts.
Charlie Conway.
Ooh.
Yes, sir. See, at this point, we're watching this live. They better not choke. You know what I'm saying?
2-0 lead now.
That's right.
Also, I think that literally was Conway's move. I feel like that was like stick handle 3 times and then just shoot near the post. There's 1. There's 2. Nah, double deke, really.
That's where I try to put the puck on a shootout, but I'm on my right hand. But still that same place in the net. Like he shot across the body, but it's a good spot if the goalie commits.
Svensson up.
Yeah, he's still alive after taking that tumble into the boards in overtime. Very good Viking name.
Comes in hot. Oof.
That's a nice goal.
That's a
nice goal.
8 is a great hockey number.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Janssen.
Yep. He's got that bag on his face.
Man, he just kind of like flies down here, though. That's just all speed and like
nice
Hirsch. Yeah, it's tough. Hirsch is just kind of like deer in the headlights at that point.
Ah.
I fucks with Svensson for that one, man. I respect it. Like I said, he is allowed to wear the bucket. He is good.
Dwayne Norris.
Any relation to Jack?
No, but he's Chuck's son.
Nice.
Oh, is that real?
No, I don't think he's Chuck Norris' son. No.
Like, okay.
Well, he didn't look like Chuck on that one.
No. Oh, maybe Fist of Fury Chuck after Bruce Lee kicks his butt, but
about to say maybe
not Fist of Fury. Which one's that?
Not Walk of Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris. But
no, yeah, Enter the Dragon one.
I think they should bring back these pad dimensions. I like the look. Just
I do too, man.
Halfway down the shins, like
it requires a lot more talent, a lot of raw natural finesse.
Mats Naslund, again with the speed too, just shoots it 7 feet wide of the net.
He did not look confident.
No,
Very
I
passive.
think he loses control of the puck here when he tries to make that backhand move.
Yeah, it just kind of flutters on him.
Yeah. I'm assuming he was trying to tuck that back 5 hole.
Who we got here? Parks, right?
Yeah.
Greg Parks. What a name.
He can't take his kids there, but maybe he can. Depends what the government says. And foiled.
Yeah,
a little swagger from Tommy Salo there. Get that garbage out of here, Jack Armstrong. Get that garbage out of here. Forsberg still has to round out the 4th round, though.
Yes.
I don't think he's very good at shootouts, though.
Forsberg,
no.
Yeah, at this point, he hasn't really proven that he can really do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't think I haven't seen Forsberg score a shootout goal pre-1994.
Yeah, his 100+ points in the U20 system.
None of them were in shootouts.
Oh, he's pretty good at shootouts.
Yeah,
that was pretty nice.
That was a nice one. That was like kind of, I think, what like Robbie was kind of thought, or like you got to have that little change of pace. and kind of get into the hash marks, freeze the goalie, and then
The start stop.
puck it in.
Ooh. Very slick.
Nice move.
Corey Hirsch, 5-hole like a 2-cent hooker. Jesus. Wide open.
You hate to see it.
You hate to
It's
see it.
interesting though to see like how many Swedish guys are trying to do that move to him though.
Rest in peace, man.
What?
Rest in peace,
To
Greg
who?
Johnson.
Why is he dead?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Man, Salo is feeling himself in this shootout though, man.
You know what? Some goalies love it. Some goalies love the pressure, man. 1-on-1, he doesn't have to face screens and complain about it.
Yeah, he's like none of my crap defensemen are standing in front of me on these goals now.
Dun, 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 dun.
So we got Hansen up next, the final shooter of the opening 5 rounds here.
This is for the gold medal right here,
This is for
fellas.
the gold medal, yeah.
He could
Gold
win
game on
gold
his
for
stick.
Sweden for the first time ever.
Clearly the best Hansen brother. So
The most passive as well.
Roger is a weird name for a Swedish person.
And Corey Hirsch with a little 1-2 skip to my Lou. And we are going to sudden death here. And
You make
Kurt
that look
Lundmark,
very
the
good.
coach, needs to take another 20 minutes to decide who will shoot next. In fact, no one seems to know, announcers included, what the rules are. Does it have to be new people? Can we put people back out there? What's going on? And eventually they determine anyone can shoot again. That's totally fine. So anyone who shot in the previous 5 rounds can do so, even though the announcer originally thinks that can't happen. I don't even know if maybe they just made this up on the spot, but you'll see.
Honestly, based on the way that the broadcast is explaining it and how long this takes, I would not be surprised if they were just like, yeah, screw it, whatever, your 2 best players go. Yeah. I don't care. I'm just the ref. It's not that big of a deal.
This game took place at like 3:15 in the afternoon Norway time. So it's about 9:15 in the morning when the puck drops. So at this point, it's probably noon Eastern time. So over there, it's 7 o'clock. There's no reason anyone should be super, super fatigued. I'm tired. I'm wasted. I love you, darling.
I'm tired. I'm wasted. I love you, darling.
Svensson comes in, puts the fake on. This time it doesn't work.
Either way, Svensson stopped by Hirsch. Nedved comes back up now.
What an episode. Hirsch can't even watch. He's doing the Gigi Buffon, not watching the other shootout take place.
Hirsch is watching the downhill skiing on the bench.
They spell Peter, Nedved's name, as regular Peter, not Peter. And he can't do it.
I don't even think Salo touches this though. Sweden's fans are fired up.
That's
no,
a
you
first.
completely missed that. You know what I feel like? I feel like people like back then were much more like dramatic in terms of like celebrations.
Oh, for sure.
Like that guy's wiping his face. He's like, oh, saw another person like a Canada sweater going like, ah, you know, like now that they don't.
Yeah, I love to see it, man. I want to see that. I don't want people to be ashamed that they might become a meme.
Well, that's what I mean. It's just like everyone's got cameras now. Like you can't. It's either you're doing the reaction on your camera and you're going like, wah, or like someone's just, you know. But here's Peter Forsberg. I don't think he's got another move left in him.
No, you can't have.
He's reached his quota of coolness.
Oh.
I've seen this goal so many times, and every single time I see it, I'm like, that is just filthy. You're allowed to celebrate that one.
Like the cojones on the kid, man. The cojones.
Cojones.
I'm going to do something that I have no business doing.
No.
The arrogance, but he's not. He's a very humble guy, but the gall to do this. Because the announcer says if he tried this during a game on a breakaway, all 5 guys on the opposing team would come for his head. Like, this is so showy, but this is the best place to do it. And it worked, and no remorse. Corey Hirsch looks like a dog about to pee on a fire hydrant. He's dangled so far out of his cage. And that stands as the winner right now, unless Paul Correa, lo and behold, can tie it up.
See, even Korea is doing the skating circles thing like Conway, man. This is Charlie Conway, very influential on the penalty shots here.
Zoink, what a stop.
Oh, man, what a great
Big
stop.
save, kicks it out. I think Korea tried the same move on it, and then Salo just kicked it out.
It's a pity it had to go into overtime, or into a shootout after overtime, because both teams fought so hard. There are no real losers in this one, but the Swedes come up with a gold. Canada gets silver, and we already know the Finns have the bronze. What a finish to an incredible hockey game.
Salo stops Korea. The Swedes, as a result, win gold. Canada will have to settle for silver. It was really cool to see a young Paul Kariya and Peter Forsberg go head to head. Crazy to think that, just the next year they're going to be wrecking the league. So it's really cool to see that. What did you guys think of the game? Feel free to share some thoughts on the shootout as well. Take us home, boys.
There's a lot to unpack right there. You just kind of said, take us home and talk about everything. Hockey's a great sport to watch. So Sweden wins their first ever gold medal in nation's history at the Olympics. 2006, they win a second. Canada nowhere close to even getting near the podium in that tournament. But here they get the silver. Not nothing to be ashamed of. Great game. Say what you will about the shootouts. If a Canadian player of Korea did that Forsberg move there, he would be immortalized in Canadian lore for all the positive reasons. I can't fault Forsberg. I mean, Forsberg's not an unlikable player. Like he's a Hall of Famer, played on the Avalanche. No one really dislikes the Avalanche our age. People always look up to those teams. Forsberg's a great player. Nice goal. Well-deserved. Love or hate shootouts. It was necessary. And Sweden probably was the better team, quite honestly, throughout the game. Canada had some difficulties getting some momentum going, especially in the first half of the game until they finally beat Salo for those 2 screenshots. So rightfully so, Sweden win. Next Olympics, Nagano, Japan. NHL players are allowed to go. Canada gets 4th, right? No, not great. And a lot of these Canadian players go on to have very mediocre careers, except for Nedved and Korea, basically. I mean, they're just amateur players. A lot of them kind of have a little bit of flirting with the pros, a couple seasons here and there, up and down from the minors. A couple of them even go on to Europe and play in Germany or Sweden. But, it was the best we got, and we had to be proud of them. And Sweden, very, very talented core, as we mentioned time and time again throughout this episode. Up-and-coming players like Janssen and Forsberg that have pretty full careers, and in Forsberg's case, a Hall of Fame career, mashed with the players of the last decade that had a lot of success in the NHL, like Lou and Naslund. Canada wins their first gold medal in 50 years, finally in 2002. We all know Salt Lake. They beat the States in their country, in the United States. So, yeah, their time comes, and now that up until Pyeongchang, and, even it's questionable now if players will be able to go to Beijing. Peter Forsberg, the very next season, or in the very next year, 1995, gets immortalized on a national stamp. Stamp, man. The dangle. Corey Hirsch refused to allow his likeness to appear on the stamp, so they kind of changed the appearance and the jersey color. Because, I mean, say what you will, some people would probably allow it, fair play to him, but Corey Hirsch and numerous others
low key,
no.
That's kind of a dick move by Corey Hirsch. It's like, just own it, dude.
Well, yeah, some would own it.
We know it's you.
It is still fresh, though. They do it the very next year, and he's probably still known in Sweden as the guy who conceded that goal, that remarkable one-handed backhand tuck-in by Forsberg. So, yeah, it's hard to say, but, yeah, it was still fresh, probably raw. He did stand on his head. He made 40 saves throughout regulation and overtime. He was probably the best player for Canada tonight. And to lose and kind of get a little bit embarrassed by that, I understand why he said no.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I'm sure not everybody's overly thrilled about, you got to think too, like all those guys that have to watch, like, the top 10 greatest goals and stuff. And it's like, oh, I'm the goalie on the other end of this goal all the time, right? So that you just kind of constantly have to rewatch over and over again every time there's a new Sports Center top 10 or something. But yeah, I think like Forsberg here, like it's obvious, it's probably one of the most iconic goals in hockey history. Definitely the most iconic shootout goal.
I tried everything, and I'm happy with my career, and I wouldn't change my career with that many people. I think I had had a good run and I got to win a lot of things before I was 30, so I'm happy.
This is the moment most North Americans realize the special skills of Peter Forsberg, a 20-year-old with the gold medal on his stick at the 1994 Olympics. The move to be immortalized on a postage stamp.
I think I actually have that postage stamp at home somewhere in the house I grew up in, and I'm sure my dad knows where it is.
That goal is just, at that age that he was at the time, who does that?
I was very nervous. I was horrible at penalty shots, so that's the only move. I had two moves and I did the first one in round robin, so I didn't have another move. I was lucky.
Sweden picking up their gold medals here. So as we kind of alluded to earlier, Thomas Jansson, Mats Naslund, Håkan Loob become the first 3 members of the Triple Gold Club, which has now expanded to include 29 players. So they all have, Jansson's got his cups with the Islanders, Naslund won with the Habs, Loob won with Calgary, and then they were all on the 1991 World Championship team as well. So that kind of fulfills the criteria, and they become the first 3 guys to ever do it. So, that's something that's a little feather that they can put in their cap for the rest of their lives there. They were the first to do it. And, it is ultimately, as much as we maybe kind of joked about the first 2 periods of this game, the ending is ultimately what makes this a classic and, makes it worth kind of revisiting, especially, in the circumstances of how this game actually ended, because it is one of the most iconic goals of all time. As you said, it was still like immortalized on that stamp. And then like, even to this day, people still refer to that move as like the Forsberg, right? So it's, it became part of like the hockey lexicon. If you say you're going to use a Forsberg move, like everybody knows what you're talking about, right?
Yep. Forsberg is immortalized as Sweden takes home the gold. Canada, once again, has to put on the long face and settle for the silver. That Finn there is very happy.
That is the only time I've ever seen a Finnish fan happy about Sweden winning a gold medal.
Oh, maybe we overestimate how much that dislike for one another is.
Maybe we do. They're very friendly people over there. So
they are.
We are going to go visit them, boys. Another place to travel to, the 3 of us.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, you can travel to laymansports.com, where you could also find all of our other classic puck reviews. While you're at it, look up Layman Sports on YouTube, SoundCloud, and Facebook. And for Derek and for Beta, I'm Robbie. Thanks for listening.